Ladies and gentlemen, with a huge round of applause, our keynote speaker for our final session for today, Mr. Sarim Aziz.
Okay. Good afternoon. I think I'm the only one standing between the next tea break, so hopefully people are still awake. My name is Sarim. It's a pleasure to be here in Colombo again. It was a fascinating few hours of discussion we've had today, and I think hopefully many more exciting things to come for later this evening. I want to talk to you about building next generation AI. I think we are obviously dealing with AI in different ways. People are using it for, different problems to solve. You're talking about cybersecurity. But I think if we take a step back and think about truly as a technology that can address the risks you're concerned about, there's a possibility to build for the ecosystem, for the people in this room, for governments, for academics, for civil society, for developers, for startups to truly build, control your own destiny and build your own next generation AI that's secure. And that's what I want to sort of leave you with today. Hopefully I can do that by the end of this presentation. So what's Meta to do with any of this? Aren't we the company that just creates cats videos, helps you see your next cat video or your baby photos of your families and friends? No, actually, so our mission is to build the future of human connection. And we believe that AI and the metaverse are going to be the really important platforms where this is going to happen. We all are carrying a mobile phone in our pockets. That is not going to be the future. I think the way we interact with technology is rapidly shifting. And that is going to, perhaps from your perspective, create different kinds of risks, but also incredible opportunities for the world and how we interact with people and with technology. So I think it's good to just take a step back and understand what is going on. This might be the spectrum of cybersecurity kind of concerns companies might be concerned about. You've got new models, language models coming to the scene, giving new capabilities that weren't possible before. You've got people expressing themselves in different ways, mostly for good purposes, but of course there's also people who might use some of these tools or some other tools to try and mislead. But this is a fundamental reality of expression. 10 years ago, nobody thought that short-form video content would be relevant, but now Reels is there. You see augmented reality coming into the mix, and so I think really it's about human expression and AI. We have to take a step back and just appreciate how AI enables human creativity, and I think it's very natural for humans to create. This is not about AI becoming an artist, but it's really amplifying human creativity and helping you express what we want to express in a much more engaging way. So I think it's important to recognize that some people might say, well, AI is nothing new. I've been doing machine learning for decades. That's true, but I think we are missing the point when we think about the opportunities that generative AI presents itself with, giving us the opportunities to generate new information, new visuals, new text, new audio in a way that we haven't been able to do before. And I think I said this yesterday in one of the forums, that we still think we have a long way to go, despite of the significant shift we see on AI today because of large language models, because of generative AI. We are not at the stage of what we might consider superintelligence, which we believe is the future, which we believe is important for humans to be able to leverage superintelligence to achieve the tasks that they want to achieve. Because there's 4 fundamental things that AI cannot do today, right? The AI cannot understand the physical world. very well. AI does not have persistent memory. Okay, AI cannot solve new problems, right? And it can't. There's no zero-shot solution. There's no AI that can just give it a new problem and it just solves the new problem for you, right? And lastly, it can't plan and reason, right? I know there's a lot of models out there that try to make it look like they're reasoning, but we all know that's not true reasoning. That's not like human cognitive reasoning. So we have a long way to go. That hopefully should give the cybersecurity people in this room a little bit of respite, that there's time. We're not there in super intelligence, but it's coming, and you need to start preparing. And how many people here are familiar with Moore's Law? Moore's Law? Okay, if you don't know, this is a computer scientist from the 50s who predicted that transistors on chipsets are going to double every 2 years. AI has broken that rule, very quickly. I think right now those on GPUs we are doubling. It's probably happening 15 times as fast as what he predicted, right? So far Moore's Law has held stable until the 2010s, I would say, but since then you can see the rapid acceleration. And so this should give you a sign that in terms of from the hardware perspective, that the hardware is evolving very quickly. This is good news. I think this is generally good news for everybody here, because one of the biggest challenges with AI is the hardware, is getting access to compute. So it should get cheaper, even though I think the demand is so huge right now that I think the companies are struggling to sort of to acquire this. But I think this is generally a good sign. It means the acceleration of AI growth is definitely, you see it from a perspective of how many flops and petaflops. It's just a way of measurement of computation, which we will need. So the demand for that is only going to go up, whether it's cybersecurity or any other use case. And again, for Meta, actually, AI has been a part of our DNA from the beginning. We established a fundamental AI research lab more than 10 years ago that's been doing a lot of research in this space. Thanks to that research, we have models like Llama, open source models that are available today. Many of the open source stuff that Meta has put out there through the FAIR lab are publicly used by many products around the world, and many of the leading AI companies are using that research. We fundamentally believe that open source is part of our DNA. You've built websites. If you build websites in this room, you may have heard of a framework called React, or that's a framework that Meta actually built more than 10 years ago, and that's been open source already to build most of the web pages out there use React, and it's available. So we have a long tradition of building technology and making it open source for the community to build web frameworks, to build applications, and build AI. So that gives us the advantage of, as a platform with 3.4 billion people that touch our services every single day, we have to deal with a lot of languages. We have to deal with languages in this country. We have 20 million speakers of Sinhala, and obviously other languages across the region. So this is fundamental to why we think AI is the part of the solution. It helps us at scale. It helps us moderate content. It helps us create a truly global platform for everybody, whether you're in Sri Lanka or in Vietnam. And we can't do this alone. I think just to say that we are founding members of the AI Alliance. If you don't know what that is, I'll come back to it at the end of my presentation. But we truly believe in a collaborative approach. This is not something Meta alone can solve. It's not something one company can solve. We need to engage with academia, civil society, governments. So we are founding members of the AI Alliance, which is with IBM and many others. There's also a Partnerships on AI, which is another organization. So, and there's also ML Commons, so Machine Learning Commons. So these are different organizations and associations. They're open for membership. I encourage people and experts in this room to join these organizations. AI Alliance is all about open innovation. So the belief at AI Alliance is that we need to work together to keep innovation open and collaborative. Partnership on AI is all about safety standards. So if you're worried about deepfakes, if you're worried about people getting misled by content that might be AI generated, partnership on AI has already working on provenance to make sure if you're building AI-generated images in one tool, you can detect that in another surface. So industry has to work together to make that happen. So partnership on AI is working on that. And then finally, there's the ML Commons. So that's again about benchmarks. I think I mentioned that the most important things is how do you ensure that AI solutions being built are doing what they're supposed to and doing it in a safe manner. So you need global, regional, local safety benchmarks that can test these AI applications to say, yes, like your model or your AI application meets the bar. And of course, our most popular model called Llama, open source, which is available in Sri Lanka. It's not available in some jurisdictions because of a lot of concerns around regulations, but Sri Lanka, it is available for developers, for academics to build your applications in an open source approach and use one of the most cutting edge large language models out there for free. And this is just an idea of how fast the investments are moving. So this gives you an idea of Meta's infrastructure for AI and how many clusters we've grown. I don't have the latest 2025 numbers, but it's clearly over 30,000 by now. Just this year alone on infrastructure, Meta will be investing almost $75 billion just on AI infrastructure, and that's going to help us serve developers, serve customers, serve businesses that are going to be leveraging AI, including in Sri Lanka. So why do we need all that computing power? One of our most popular virtual assistants that's built on top of Llama is Meta AI. It's available today in Sri Lanka. It's exciting because now it's not only present inside of your WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram and Messenger, it is also now a standalone app. And I think you saw the video earlier of how it's used by this fashion designer in Nigeria. But the idea is it's good. We think this is already about 1 billion people are using this monthly. This is the most popular assistant. It's free. Helps you with your everyday tasks, and can let you do some cool things. Now if you have videos or images you want to edit and change background and enhance, like it can do a lot of basic editing within the app itself, which is pretty cool. And now we're going beyond just images and text, and it actually is multimodal. You can speak to it, you can talk to it, and it's ready for businesses to assist them in things like customer service and sales. And we really think the way we interact, I mentioned earlier the phone, right? We do think we're reaching an era where people will be interacting with AI through wearables. Actually, if you were paying attention this morning, we had our conference in San Francisco called Connect, which is our annual conference on virtual reality technologies, wearable technologies, and we announced some new exciting glasses, so go check it out if you're interested in wearables. But this is going to be the form factor in how AI is going to operate, because it needs to be able to understand the world. It needs to hear what you hear. It needs to be able to see what you see in order to assist you. So it's a pretty cool form factor. We've partnered with Ray-Ban to launch this. It's on its third version. So this morning they announced a version at Connect that has a display in it. It's not true augmented reality yet, but it allows you to sort of in your glasses have a mini display. So that's pretty exciting. So you can check it out. There's also an Oakley version we've launched for the fitness enthusiasts. But fundamentally, while Meta AI is great, I think it's all about the people in this room, right? Yes, you can use it for your everyday uses, but how do you democratize this technology to everybody? And we truly believe that as part of our mission, it needs to benefit everybody. Meta, for the most part, for 3.4 billion people, like we believe in giving access to technology, whether it's for businesses or just for your personal use. So open source is the way for us, and this is something that our CEO feels very strongly about as well. He's written an open letter on how open source can help drive innovation faster on AI. Because if you're just think about it, it's not a technology that should be controlled by a few big companies. It needs to be here, whether you're a company in Sri Lanka, whether you're a startup, you should have access to the same technology that somebody else does in the other part of the world. That's the only way you can innovate this technology safely, and you can address the cybersecurity risks that you're facing. If you're siloed off and everybody's trying to do their own thing, then there's more risk, right? And it's harder to manage. And that's actually, it's something that we learned from the cybersecurity community, that the open source approach works. You need to talk about vulnerabilities. You need to be able to share signatures and things like that to be able to capture and be proactive on defense. So this is sort of something we believe AI needs to actually adopt from the cybersecurity world. So you can actually teach us some things on how to do AI better. But the latest study here from Linux Foundation shows that open source is nothing new. For cybersecurity, I'm like kind of preaching to the choir, but many companies, I think there's a lot of focus on these proprietary closed technologies that are out there that are paid. There's a lot of mention on ChatGPT, on Gemini, and Claude, but actually, if you think about how rapidly open source AI has evolved, it's gotten pretty good, and you can see some of the capabilities and how governments and some of the companies, and even in Sri Lanka, are using it. So this is the quote from our CEO. This is straight from his mouth. We truly believe in this, and we believe that in order to ensure that we can responsibly build this technology, the open approach is super important. And we invite all of you to be a part of this journey and discussion. So what are the benefits? And as you see at the bottom right there, yes, there's a lot of lessons from cybersecurity why the open approach for AI is better. And I'm going to get into that in a bit. So first of all, maximum sovereignty, right? There's a lot of, this was a discussion, I think, with cloud a few years ago about having, sovereignty on cloud and sovereign cloud and sovereignty on data. So you get that with open source. With AI, even though the model is built by Meta and it's been open sourced by Meta, you have full control to customize it to your needs. You own your data. Meta does not see your, we talked about, I think Paul was talking about which version to buy, whether they might train their model using the data or not. Well, with open source, you don't have to worry about that. The data stays with you. It goes where you want to keep it. Meta or whoever built the model, open model, does not get access to it. You protect it from changing priorities. If tomorrow Meta decides, okay, we want to do a different model, the models that are already out there, they continue working. Your system doesn't break down because somebody decided to change the API on the cloud, right? So that's the benefit of open source. Interoperability, of course, as well. It is cheaper. We talked about costs, and I'll explain how it is. Yes, access to compute is still an issue. Many of our models are quite small. They can even run on your laptop for at least your prototyping and development. But access to compute is a big challenge for many AI developers. It reduces your maintenance costs. With open source, it's easy to find talent. There's many amazing Sri Lankan startups and developers who know how to deal with and how to use open source technologies. So for talent acquisition and retaining talent, it's great and cheaper to maintain. And as I said, it does accelerate innovation because you get more of the community. We have 1.2 billion downloads on Llama. We have 230,000 derivatives of Llama models. So this helps build standards in the industry, help improve bugs faster, cybersecurity risks included. So, and we're not just doing this because it's good for the community. Yes, it is. It's actually good for Meta. It's good for Meta, good for the world. If we open source, we keep good talent and we continue to innovate. Meta, unlike many other platforms, we don't have a phone. There's no Meta phone you can buy. That's why we open source React as a web platform. So open source allows us to meet customers and developers and businesses where they are. So as I mentioned, Meta isn't doing this alone. So it doesn't matter what your cloud setup is. You might be using your own infrastructure. You might be using AWS. You might be using Amazon, Microsoft. All of those partners are now making Llama available on their platform. So that's the beauty of it. So tomorrow, if you decide, okay, I'm going to shift my infrastructure, bring it private, bring it in-house, you can do that with Llama. You don't have to break your application. Right? So you're not dependent on the API or dependent on one specific technology. And this is our latest model called Llama 4, which launched a few months ago. And what's interesting about this is it's multimodal. It does visual reasoning. It actually arguably has the largest context window of 10 million. That's Llama Scout, which is the smaller model. And what's amazing about Llama Scout, it can run on a single H100 GPU. That's pretty impressive. So that's not a lot of, as long as you've got one GPU, one H100, it can run Llama 4 quite well. And that's what we've been trying really hard to get it to run efficiently on less compute. And it has a new mixture of expert architecture. So, and that's, we call it number of experts. So, it's the number of, think of it like, different expertise that you need to solve a problem. You can break the problem down and different experts can solve that. So like an agentic infrastructure that we have. So it's available there. You can download it, try it out, see if it helps you for your cybersecurity use cases that you're building. We're excited to actually see what the cybersecurity community can do with Llama, and I can show you some of the tools that we built ourselves. So the first one is Cybersecurity Eval 4. This is in the 4th iteration. It really helps companies who are dealing with LLMs to establishes a benchmark for cybersecurity vulnerabilities to ensure that your model does not have any vulnerabilities, and it's something that a lot of companies that have built applications are using to ensure that they're using it responsibly. So have a look at that, Cybersecurity Eval. It's available, it's open source on both GitHub and our website. The second one is Code Shield. So there's a lot of code development going on. The vibe coding is quite active around the world. People are using LLMs to generate code, not realizing there's cybersecurity risks in that code, because not all LLMs are, no one's checking that code. You're trusting the LLM that it's written the code correctly. So Code Shield is another model we have released to help developers make sure that their code that they've generated does not have any cybersecurity risks in it. So that's another one also available on GitHub. You can use to ensure that whether you're using Python or JavaScript or PHP or C#, that your code does not have any vulnerabilities. So those two examples. And then just here, coming back to Sri Lanka, very proud to say that we ran an Llama accelerator last year in Singapore, across the region, across these countries. So we had winners from across each of these countries come and represent their country, and Singapore on a regional accelerator, and Sri Lanka actually did quite well. They built this fact-checking tool. We talked about deepfakes, we talked about misinformation, but actually you see here a company in Sri Lanka used Llama to help journalists be able to fact-check sources, fact-check stories, and the product is called Dissect. I believe it's by a company called Watchdog, and so do check them out. And there's many more exciting things going on, but this is just a flavor of how other countries are using Llama. In Indonesia, the runners-up, they provide AI glasses for the differently abled, for the deaf, and that was quite interesting. It can translate into 40 languages. The other one in Australia and New Zealand were also interesting. They're trying to address, again, low-resource languages for Aboriginals, making the content accessible for English speakers. So lots of great things that AI enables you to do across the board in different cultures. And then even the mainstream products that we might be using every day, we may not realize you're using Llama, and that's the beauty of open source. It's because it's hidden under the covers. It's not like ChatGPT where you go to the website or it's quite obvious that somebody's using ChatGPT. It's in their tech, it's in their tech stack, and a lot of them, like Shopify, uses it for merchants. I'll talk about Cornerstone later. A lot of the transcription done on video calls is done using Llama. So there's a lot of exciting things that are possible already, and the products that you use probably use Llama under the covers. And I think one of the speakers earlier said, I think Shamir said this, that there's lots of great capabilities AI can do. Think about what are the use cases that are relevant for you in your cybersecurity world. How can language translation help? How can doing research on cybersecurity risk when an incident occurs, how can models help you with that? So there's lots of capabilities. AI can do a lot. What are you trying to solve? And can Llama or can any model help you achieve that? And in public sectors especially, since we look after policy, so I'm obviously very interested in how public sectors. There's 5 key areas where this is obvious. Just government to citizen services, scaling that. AI and LLMs can do amazing stuff there. We've seen that, and I have a few examples of that from some countries. Just streamlining government operations, procurement. Procurement can be really, really difficult in many public sector organizations, so AI can help solve that for many government agencies. Education and workforce development, upskilling, professional. I'll talk about Cornerstone and what they're doing later. Of course, access to healthcare and as well, and public safety and security, all important areas. These are areas where a lot of our partners around the region are already accelerating with Llama. And here's some examples of that from Singapore, where it's used in legal judgment summarization to help lawyers, understand case precedents, do scientific research in Korea. Government agencies in Vietnam have a virtual assistant that helps them across the board on finding processes. And even online safety in New Zealand, where NetSafe is using it to classify and prioritize online harms that request complaints that I think we had CERT up here earlier. So that's a great example for CERT to look at, because they get a lot of complaints, and how do you categorize and how do you prioritize the risks and classify the ones that you need to look at first. So lots of great examples. This is Vietnam. This is a quote from the developer who built this, and the reason they did this is because of security reasons. They in fact moved from ChatGPT to Llama because they were always concerned about this data training issue, about sensitivity. So they moved to Llama because it gave them control over the data and their full stack, and they own the solution. They use Llama 3, which is an older model, the 70 billion model, and now you can see the time saving. It reduced their time to research by almost 30 minutes for thousands of staff members. Singapore, the one I mentioned, this is, they were one of the first to actually do this in the region. It has taken days worth of research and reduced it to 10 minutes, thanks to AI. And then, talking about vibe coding, Replit, I'm sure people here use Replit. It's quite popular for developers. It uses Llama already. And this is something I know, a tool that a lot of developers enjoy using. Upwork, a lot of freelancers, they are winning businesses, they're winning bids, thanks to Llama-powered functionality that Upwork has added into their solution for freelancers. And then Cornerstone, I think a lot of people are interested in professional development. They are building virtual characters that are teaching you your courses, and they're powered by Llama, which is pretty exciting, and it saves them a lot of investments to build these courses. And coming back to Sri Lanka, very excited to announce that university in Sri Lanka has actually produced SynLlama, and they trained Llama on 10 million SynLlama tokens, and this is available now already. It's available on GitHub. And it really bridges the divide. It's the first Sri Lankan model that's available, trained by Sri Lankan researchers, available to you to use for free, and please do give them feedback. And they've done a bunch of tests to demonstrate that this performs better than the model that Meta put out. So this is the power of open source. Meta does not claim to have, the best model out there. We believe you can build the best model using Llama. And so we give you the engine, you build the car that you want. So what's to come? Well, firstly, I mentioned these organizations at the beginning. I do encourage you to have a look at them, especially if you're interested in joining this movement of open collaboration. So as I mentioned, Meta is a member of AI Alliance, which is, if you believe in open innovation, they have something called the Open Trust Data Initiative, where they're looking for data sets. So if you have data sets you want to contribute to AI development, you can join the AI Alliance. If you want to talk about tooling and technologies that Sri Lankan startup community and developers need to use, you can join them to see what is happening and what are the latest and greatest on that. The ML Commons is more about, as I mentioned, the benchmarks, safety benchmarks, if you're interested in that from a cybersecurity perspective. Making sure users are how do models get tested for user safety as well, consumer safety. Partnership on AI is more around the collaboration, the technical standards that are needed to ensure that the industry moves forward in a responsible way when we innovate. And open compute is more about data infrastructure. If you're working on data centers and want to see what's going on in that realm, you can join that as well. But what does the future look like? Well, it's going to be multimodal. It's going to be more than text. It's going to be video. It's going to be audio. It's going to be more ways of expression. Agentic AI, there's a lot of talk about that. We already see an increase in how many, you can imagine a future where every business they might have a few employees, but they may have several agents that are working to do specific tasks. And I think Meta, as our vision is to help it make it easy for businesses to build agents so that they can do specific things, whether it's customer service or sales or demand generation or automation, marketing automation. Yeah, Gen AI is definitely going to be a workforce partner. I don't think that any company will say no. I don't think we need it. 90% of them, and then of course that you will start to see more and more, vertical specific models. We saw this with semiconductor. So different industries, healthcare, semiconductor, cybersecurity, you could see more and more domain-specific models being developed that do specific things that the industry needs, that a company like Meta can't do by itself. And just to give you a bit of the preview of the future, these are prototype glasses. This is not what we announced this morning, but this is to tell you a bit of the future of why AI is so crucial in how we're going to interact with things like augmented reality, and just with the physical world around us, that AI assistants need to be, it's not going to happen through a phone. It's too limiting, and it's just not ubiquitous enough is the right word, right? If you believe in ubiquitous computing, technology needs to disappear for it to be useful. So yes, the future of cybersecurity is proactive, as are many of the speakers have said that, but I believe it's also open. Thank you very much.